The story begins with the appearance of Jin Gang as a demonic entity surrounded by an ominous red aura, striking deep fear into the hearts of all who saw him. Screams immediately erupt, warning of his appearance and demanding that the leader of the Murim alliance be informed at once. Suddenly, without warning, the commander's order echoes through a voice transmission, ordering all members of the alliance to launch a full-scale direct assault on Jin Gang. The commander admits that this order will inevitably lead them to their deaths, but he justifies his difficult decision with the need to stop this demon at any cost, urging them to sacrifice their lives to protect future generations. In response to his order, the warriors cheer, declaring their absolute obedience, and charge toward their certain doom without fear, believing their names will be immortalized in the annals of the martial arts world. One of them tries to boost his comrades' morale, saying that no matter how demonic Jin Gang's power is, he is still human, and if they unite, they can defeat him. Then they all attack, screaming for his death. But the battle quickly reveals the overwhelming and destructive power of Jin Gang. The warriors are unable to even withstand his demonic aura, including the expert fighters and high-ranking members, who cannot even get close to him. It is noted that his internal energy grows terrifyingly stronger with every soul he reaps. With a single violent sword strike, Jin Gang eliminates all the soldiers at once. Elsewhere, far from the battlefield, one of the leaders shouts at the alliance commander, demanding he order the troops to withdraw immediately. He reveals that the investigation team has uncovered a horrific truth. Jin Gang has made a pact with a first-grade yokai that dwells in the depths of hell. He explains that this pact dictates that the souls of Jin Gang's victims become offerings, and in return, he gains the yokai's power, meaning the more alliance members he kills, the more unstoppable he becomes. The alliance commander coldly replies, "I ordered everyone to fight, yet you are still here like cowards." The other leader begs him to listen and understand his intention, warning that the worst-case scenario is the yokai descending into the human world using Jin Gang's body as a vessel. He reminds him that not even the heavenly demon can stop a yokai of this grade, pleading with him once more to order a retreat. The alliance commander ignores all these pleas with a mysterious and unsettling smile, comparing the situation to a luxurious banquet that must be served to a high-ranking guest. Before the other leader's confusion and astonishment, the alliance commander reveals his horrific true plan, admitting that he spent 500 years searching for a human who could be a perfect vessel for Lord Rakshasa. To ensure this vessel would make the demonic pact, he himself annihilated Jin Gang's entire clan, so that he would be left with nothing but hatred and a desire for revenge. He then pushed him to commit endless murders until his body became capable of containing Lord Rakshasa within it. At that moment, those present discover that the one posing as the alliance commander is actually a disguised Imugi, and they ask him in shock what he did to the real commander. But he scoffs at them, calling them treacherous fools. Upon the discovery of his true identity, the Imugi attacks the stunned warriors, mocking them by revealing that the commander they had faithfully followed for decades was none other than him. At that moment, an immense, unfathomable power erupts, and Lord Rakshasa, a yokai, rare even in hell, materializes in his full form, distinguished by a terrifying third eye. The Imugi assumes its true form as a giant serpent and bows before its new master, declaring its complete loyalty and telling him it will be his faithful servant who will achieve his great ambitions. Rakshasa asks if the Imugi is prepared to do anything for him, and when the Imugi enthusiastically confirms, Rakshasa simply orders him to die. The Imugi is utterly shocked and asks why. Just then, Jin Gang's original consciousness speaks through the body controlled by Rakshasa, revealing that he lost his wife, his daughter, and his entire clan, and that he sold his soul to the demon for one purpose only, to kill the Imugi, who destroyed his life. The Imugi is filled with shock and terror, unable to believe how a weak human soul could still remain within this demonic body. After his revenge is finally achieved, Jin Gang feels that everything is over, and the memory of his beloved family passes before him like a final film reel. But suddenly the true voice of Rakshasa addresses him, congratulating him on his revenge, and expressing admiration for his use of the soul-devouring technique on himself to buy the necessary time. Rakshasa coldly reminds him that according to their contract, the time has now come for him to offer his body completely, inviting him to accept his fate willingly, and enjoy the eternal bliss he will receive when he becomes part of a supreme being. Jin Gang rejects this bliss with absolute disdain, asserting that he will never allow him to cross into the human world. Rakshasa scoffs at him, asking if he thinks he will pass peacefully into the afterlife after all the murders he has committed. He threatens that he will suffer in the fires of hell for countless eons, or worse, that King Yama himself might completely erase his soul, meaning he would be reduced to absolute nothingness. Unexpectedly, Jin Gang finds the idea of turning into nothingness to be the most wonderful thing he has heard in a long time. Then, in a sudden move, he stabs himself with his sword, forcing Rakshasa's spirit out of the body that has fallen to the ground. Rakshasa becomes enraged and refuses to let the vessel he worked so hard to find fade away so easily. He vows that he will find a way to force his reincarnation and will find him again in his next life. Rakshasa's angry voice continues, asserting that even if hundreds or thousands of years pass, their contract will remain in effect as long as Jin Gang's soul exists. The scene then shifts to the modern era, where Jin Gang's reincarnation appears in the form of a man named Hong Do-jin, walking the streets of a bustling modern city. Do-jin is plunged into a horrific nightmare, in which he relives the painful memory of his clan's slaughter, while Jin Gang stands helpless, able to do nothing but scream from the intensity of his pain and rage. He sees the Imugi in its human form brutally slaughtering his family members. The nightmare ends with the Imugi standing over Jin Gang's exhausted body, telling him coldly that everything that happened was his own fault, because he was weak. Do-jin awakens from his sleep in a panic, panting and drenched in sweat. The girl beside him asks with concern if he is okay, and inquires if he had another nightmare. Do-jin tells her that he has been having the same dream over and over lately, but he attributes it to exhaustion. The girl expresses her deep concern and asks him again if he will keep his promise to leave his current job, explaining that she doesn't want to see him get hurt or hurt others. In the midst of their conversation, Do-jin's phone rings, and he answers a call from his boss, who orders him to immediately go and deal with the Ho-young crew. The girl asks him worriedly if he is going out at such a late hour. Do-jin confirms that an emergency has come up at work, but he promises her that this will be his last mission, and that he will leave this dark world forever afterward, declaring that he will no longer live as a monster. The scene shifts to a pier, where two gangs face off in a tense atmosphere. Gu Tai-seong, Do-jin's boss, suggests to his rival Choi Ho-hyung that they avoid an all-out war that could harm their families, involve the police, and expose them on social media. Instead, he proposes settling matters through a one-on-one duel between their best fighters. Ho-hyung agrees to the proposal, on the condition that the losing side will completely surrender control of the docks. He then scoffs at Tae-seong, asking if he is putting all his trust in his fighter nicknamed the Ghoul. Tae-seong calmly replies that he has brought a very strong rookie for this task. Ho-hyung asks Do-jin if he can handle his opponent, who looks strong, and Do-jin replies with complete confidence and calm that it doesn't matter who the opponent is. Facing Tae-seong's crew, the members of Ho-hyung's crew wonder if this young man is the legendary Ghoul of Tae-seong, noting he is much younger than they expected, while they trade rumors that he put 10 members of the Baekhyun gang in the hospital by himself. The rookie fighter from Ho-hyung's crew looks at them with disdain and calls the title Ghoul of Tae-seong pathetic. The fighter thinks to himself, scoffing at these thugs who are all talk, considering them nothing more than street scum who fight in alleys. He bitterly recalls the fact that despite being expelled, he was once ranked as a professional, and he laments his current situation, asserting that if it weren't for his mounting debts, he would never have set foot in a place like this. During the fight, the professional fighter forms his offensive strategy in his mind. After the initial exchange of blows, he sees that his opponent has no special skills, just as he expected. Overconfident, the fighter grabs Do-jin's head, believing he has taken full control of the situation, and lands a powerful kick to his face, declaring that the fight is over and he has him completely under control. He then grabs him from behind, mocks the Ghoul nickname, and insolently invites him to visit his private gym so he can teach him the principles of real fighting. Do-jin replies with a strange calm that he appreciates the offer, but he hates gym floors. He adds that they smell bad and are too soft, and in a flash he turns the tables and throws his opponent to the ground with shocking force. The professional fighter screams in pain. Do-jin gets on top of him and raises his fist to punch him, and the fighter realizes the gravity of the situation and desperately tries to protect himself. Do-jin lands a fierce punch to his opponent's body, and the fighter groans from the force of the blow. Do-jin then continues his brutal assault, grabbing his opponent's hair and repeatedly slamming his head against the ground. On the other side, Do-jin's crew leader smiles and declares that the duel is settled. The Ho-young leader is stunned as he scoffs that the professional fighter he brought has been completely crushed. One of Ho-young's men suggests waiting a bit, but Choi silences him, saying it's over, adding that they aren't athletes, but real street fighters. He explains that in a real fight, the battle ends once it reaches this level of violence, regardless of martial arts techniques. One of Ho-young's men mocks Do-jin for grabbing his opponent's hair like a girl, but he quickly notices that something strange is happening. On the ground, the professional fighter realizes he is completely helpless. Every time he tries to back away, Do-jin's grip closes on him like a vice. He remembers that when he tried to take him down, Do-jin crushed him with an unexpected and immense weight. Then Do-jin kicks his leg, making him scream in agony. Do-jin continues to beat him mercilessly, and with eyes void of any expression, he carries on his savage attack. Suddenly the words of his beloved, who asked him not to hurt himself or others, echo in his mind. At the last moment, his hand stops in midair before delivering another blow. Then Do-jin gets up and declares the fight is over, ending the duel on his own terms. After the duel ends, Gu Tai-seong congratulates his fighter, Do-jin, on a job well done, then turns to the defeated leader, Mr. Choi, and officially declares that the port is now under their crew's control. Do-jin thinks to himself that it's finally over and makes a firm decision that he will no longer hurt anyone and will live a normal life. Elsewhere, a mysterious figure senses the presence of Jin Gang's reincarnation, realizing he has appeared in this world. But in the warehouse, Mr. Choi gets up and scoffs at Do-jin's declaration, pointing out that his opponent is still breathing as he places his foot on his head. Choi declares with a harsh philosophy that in the gangster world, a fight continues until someone dies, and what they do is not a sport, accusing Do-jin of trying to take the easy way out by refraining from completing the job fully. He then presents him with a final choice: either kill the defeated fighter and get the port, or refuse and get nothing. Choi approaches Do-jin and asks threateningly if he understood, calling him by the nickname the Ghoul. Do-jin remains silent, which enrages Choi, who demands an answer, and he quickly loses his temper completely, threatening to kill Do-jin on the spot for ignoring him. But Tae-seong intervenes just in time, telling Mr. Choi that his fighter isn't answering because he's talking nonsense. He then brandishes a knife, advising Choi to stop embarrassing himself and suggesting they end things like respectable men. Choi scoffs at the idea of respect, wondering how he can stay calm while Tae-seong speaks this way. To which Tae-seong calmly replies that Choi was the one who started talking trash first, then turns to Do-jin to confirm his words. Finally, Do-jin speaks, but not to them. Instead, he asks them in confusion, "Can you really not see that thing?" Tae-seong asks him, bewildered, what he's talking about, as Do-jin points to something only he can see, Suddenly, an aura of celestial blue flame appears before him, while his eyes glow white. Taeseong's confusion grows, wondering what blue flame he's talking about and what is suddenly happening. Do-jin realizes this flame has appeared before him and paralyzed him, as if he were stuck in a nightmare. He hears Rakshasa's voice in his mind, addressing him as the reincarnation of Jin Gang, and telling him the time has come to honor their contract. Suddenly, the blue aura seeps into his body, and Do-jin is struck with shock and intense pain. He begins to choke and convulse, and Taeseong rushes to him in concern, asking what's happening to him. Do-jin mutters, his eyes fixed on nothing, that the flame is entering his body. His memories flash back to his past life, where he was kneeling amidst the corpses of his slain clan members, clutching his wife's body, crying and blaming himself for his weakness, admitting he couldn't protect them. While in that state of despair, a mysterious voice asks him if he wants revenge. The blue flame, Rakshasa, appears before him and offers to grant him its power, proposing they make a pact and asking for an offering in return. Jin Gang believes that this recurring hallucination represented his deep-seated desire for revenge. He clenches his fists tightly and accepts the offer, assuring Rakshasa that he will give it an offering, as he has plenty of bastards he wishes dead. Jin Gang begs the blue flame, Rakshasa, asking it to forge the pact and grant him its power. Rakshasa answers and tells him to remember the terms of the agreement well from that moment on. It assures him that even if his body decays, as long as his soul remains, this pact will last forever. As the blue energy flows into Jin Gang's hand, Rakshasa declares that Jin Gang has become his eternal servant, and Jin Gang screams from the pain of the power flowing into him. As the blue flame consumes him, Rakshasa tells him that he is no longer human, but has become a monster. Rakshasa informed him that the pact was complete. Rakshasa explains that from now on, every being that dies at Jin Gang's hand, whether it be a small insect, a king, or even a god, will become an offering to him, and Jin Gang appears after gaining his power, with blood streaming from his eyes. In exchange for these offerings, Rakshasa will grant him the power of the Tyrant Demon Star, a power feared by all beings on Earth. Rakshasa concludes his offer by granting him his full power, which manifests in a majestic, three-eyed demonic form. But Rakshasa warns him sternly, telling him to remember that the moment his power exceeds his body's ability to withstand it. Jin Gang himself will also become an offering. This causes Do-jin in the present to be shocked as he relives this memory. He looks at his trembling hands, wondering what he just saw, certain that his body was on fire just moments ago. Mr. Choi scoffs at him, accusing him of being crazy for suddenly screaming on his own. But Do-jin stands up and grabs Choi, challenging him to see for himself whether he has lost his mind or not. Choi is frightened, while someone steps forward suggesting they settle the matter now in an all-out battle. Suddenly, the sound of police sirens is heard, interrupting the tense confrontation. Taeseong stops Mr. Choi, who is about to draw his weapon, and calmly tells him that the bell for the end of the round has rung, suggesting they end things for today and arrange another meeting. Choi agrees to meet again, but adds a threat that the rights to manage the port and their lives will be on the line next time. After they leave, Do-jin apologizes to Taeseong for causing the situation to escalate, but Taeseong reassures him that they would have found any excuse to start a fight anyway. Taeseong asks Do-jin with concern what happened to him earlier, as he looked like he had seen a ghost. Do-jin replies that it's nothing, claiming he's just been a little tired lately and having strange dreams. In another car, Choi wonders what kind of power Do-jin possesses. Meanwhile, Choi receives a phone call and nervously answers someone named Mr. Kwei. Choi tries to reassure Mr. Kwei about the port management rights, promising to get them back soon. But Mr. Kwei expresses his dissatisfaction, pointing out that without the port, Choi cannot meet the required delivery quotas. He threatens that if this situation continues, it will be difficult to continue working with him. Choi panics and begs Mr. Kwei to give him more time, vowing to meet the quotas by any means necessary. On the phone, Choi Ho-hyung was begging a person named Mr. Kwei, reminding him that he had done everything asked of him so far, and he continues to plead, asking for more time. Mr. Kwei reluctantly agrees, giving him one final decisive deadline, before sunrise the next day, ordering him to take control of the port before this deadline expires. He then ends the call with a clear threat that he will change suppliers if Choi is even a moment late. After ending the call, Choi mutters angrily, calling Mr. Kwei a monster, then asks his driver when sunrise is, which the driver estimates to be around 6 in the morning. Choi orders his driver to find out the exact time, declaring that they must crush Taeseong's faction immediately, adding grimly that if they don't, they will all die under the wrath of Mr. Kwei. Meanwhile, Do-jin arrives at his apartment and calls for his beloved Jua, but finds the place unusually empty. Immediately realizing something is wrong, Do-jin remains on high alert, expecting danger to be lurking. Suddenly, someone attacks him from behind with a bladed weapon, but Do-jin quickly blocks the attack and delivers a powerful kick to the assailant, following it up with a swift punch to immobilize him. Do-jin pins the attacker to the ground, threatening to gouge out his eye if he doesn't talk, and sharply asks him where the woman who was in the apartment is. Another person emerges from the shadows, remarking with admiration that Do-jin managed to defeat the first attacker with ease despite his skill, just as the rumors say. The newcomer introduces himself as Gil Tai-seok, the operations commander of the Ho-hyung faction, and sarcastically apologizes for taking Do-jin's family hostage, describing their actions as barbaric. He justifies his actions by saying they were under higher orders, revealing Jua, who is bound and gagged. Do-jin is enraged and vows to kill them all, to which Gil Tai-seok coldly replies, advising him not to waste emotions among professionals and asserting that Do-jin is well aware of the nature of the situation. Do-jin reluctantly calms down and asks them what they want, offering to sacrifice himself for her freedom. Tai-seok replies that this might normally be enough, but not today, because their leader has made his decision. He then brandishes a knife, announcing that their leader has decided to eliminate Tai-seong's entire faction. Realizing there is no way out, Do-jin grabs the knife's blade with his bare hand, asking them to promise they will leave Jua alone. Tai-seok promises that he will absolutely not kill her. Jua tries to scream as she watches Do-jin sacrifice himself for her. Do-jin apologizes to Jua in his mind for letting her see him in this horrific situation after he had been the cause of her constant worry. He grips the blade tighter, lamenting that he was on the verge of starting a normal life, but it seems this is the end. He finds some solace in the fact that it is he who will die and not her. As he is on the verge of death, Do-jin thinks that at least this fate is different from the nightmare that has long haunted him. The assassins swarmed him, covering his body in stab wounds. The scene shows the knife plunge deep into his body. Gil Tai-seok orders his men to leave the cleanup to the specialists and head immediately to their leader, stressing the need to finish everything before sunrise. When one of his men asks what to do with the woman, Tai-seok replies dismissively, wondering if the question even needs to be asked. He orders them to take her with them, justifying it by saying they can't leave a witness behind. He adds that Do-jin was a professional too and should understand, then reveals his deception by explaining that his promise was to keep her alive, not to let her go. As Jua struggles, one of the gangsters orders her to stop resisting. He smiles slyly and tells her to think of it positively, because she will receive special attention. Suddenly, he feels a hand grip his leg from below and looks down in shock to find that Do-jin is not dead yet. Despite his grave injury, Do-jin stabs the man's leg with force, and the man screams in pain, wishing Do-jin had just died quietly. Then Gil Tai-seok notices in horror that the man is trying to pull the knife out of his body and yells at him not to do it. Gil Tai-seok comments, admitting that injuring the artery with such precision while unconscious makes Do-jin worthy of being called a demon, as the scene shows Do-jin and the man drenched in their blood after Do-jin stabbed him with the same knife. Gil Tai-seok lifts Do-jin's head and slits his throat, wishing him rest in hell. One of the remaining gangsters orders them to move quickly, and another asks what to do about Dak-yu, the injured one. The leader replies that someone whose femoral artery is severed dies within 2 minutes, and orders the cleaners to be notified to handle him, while Dak-yu breathes his last, feeling a deadly cold. The scene shows Do-jin's lifeless corpse. The voice of Rakshasa is heard commenting on Do-jin's death, saying, "How praiseworthy." Rakshasa feels a shock, wondering how this happened so quickly. Rakshasa's voice echoes once more, saying, "To make an offering." Elsewhere, Gil Tai-seok receives a call from Leader Choi, telling him the mission is complete and they are on their way to him. Suddenly, Gil Tai-seok hears something fall from above. He orders his men to turn on the lights. When the lights come on, Gil Tai-seok is stunned and wonders if what he's seeing before him is truly a demon. Gil Tai-seok stands shocked, asking the creature before him, "What are you?" Do-jin appears, standing, having returned to life, with strange vein-like marks spreading across his neck, while Rakshasa's voice explains that since Do-jin has made an offering according to the Pact, it will grant him its power. Meanwhile, in a quiet bar called Hex Taro, the waitress welcomes Tai-seong, telling him it's been a long time and asking if he wants his usual drink. Tai-seong wonders how this place is always empty whenever he comes, commenting that the bar staying open until now is a miracle. The waitress replies that it's thanks to people like him, who believe in tarot cards. As she pours his drink, Tai-seong notes that she seems to be calling him a fool who believes in superstitions, but she gently denies it, assuring him that he is a regular and valued customer. Tai-seong admits that although he started visiting the place for fun, her readings have never been wrong once. He adds that all the cards he's drawn so far have been good, and the waitress humbly replies that it's just good luck that happened to a competent man. Tai-seong jokingly criticizes her humility, saying that's why she has no customers, and urges her to acknowledge the card's merit. The waitress explains that the readings are only meaningful when taken as entertainment, then offers for him to draw some cards. Tai-seong agrees and chooses 3 cards from the deck. When he looks at the cards, the waitress's expression turns serious and worried, which Tai-seong notices and asks her about. She reveals the first card, representing the past, and explains that it signifies victory. She then reveals the second card, the star, representing the present, and interprets it to mean that his victories have continued, and he is currently living in a state of satisfaction and prosperity. Finally, she reveals the third card, the tower, representing the future, and indicates that it signifies change. She summarizes the reading, explaining that because of his past victories, he will experience a great change in the future. Tai-seong feels relieved, thinking it's not as bad as he expected, but the waitress hesitantly adds that the word change can also mean ruin, and explains that the tower card has 2 possible interpretations. She then tries to lighten the mood, reminding him that it's just for fun. Tai-seong remains silent, a worried look on his face, before the bar door is suddenly burst open. Choi Ho-hyung enters with his men, mocking Tai-seong for sitting relaxed, unaware that this is the day he dies. Tai-seong calmly retorts, mocking them for still working at this late hour. Choi angrily comments on Taeseong's confidence and composure to the very end, then orders his men to kill him, and they charge at him with their weapons. The fight begins between Taeseong and Choi's men. Taeseong successfully fends off one attacker, then manages to break free and run towards the restroom as Choi's men shout not to let him escape. Choi yells at his men, reminding them to finish the job before sunrise, and orders them to catch Taeseong and kill him. One of the gangsters follows him into the restroom, cursing him for running like a rat, when suddenly Taeseong appears before him from the right. In the tight space of the restroom, Taeseong continues to fight fiercely against Choi's men. Suddenly, with a swift move, he plunges his knife into one of their necks, severing it, which temporarily shocks the others. Taeseong addresses his rival Choi with a confident tone, reminding him that he used to be a knife fighter and should understand the tactical meaning of this situation well. Choi immediately realizes that Taeseong has cornered him in the right corner of the room. Taeseong explains that this is the worst position a knife fighter can face, a tight right corner, and proves his point by lethally dispatching another attacker who tried to approach. He explains that this position obstructs the attacker's right hand due to the wall, while giving the defender trapped in the corner complete freedom to use his knife effectively. Taeseong adds that there is only one way to overcome this predicament, which is to send in a left-handed fighter who is stronger than the defender. He then gives a meaningful look, indicating that Choi himself is left-handed, as if hinting that this is his only chance. Finally, Taeseong challenges Choi Ho-hyung directly, telling him to stop sacrificing his innocent men and face him himself, man to man. Meanwhile, Gil Tae-seok, who is observing the events, sits with his men. The man looks at Do-jin, standing before him, who appears extremely exhausted and is surrounded by a faint blue aura, and asks in awe, "Are you really a demon?" He then orders his driver to speed up, and when the driver hesitates for a moment, he yells at him to repeat the order. The car speeds off and collides with Do-jin. Do-jin shatters the car's windshield with the knife in his hand. The car's occupants are terrified. Do-jin breaks into the car. He slits the driver's throat, then quickly moves to the back seat. The man shrinks back in his seat, afraid of the attacker who has started to enter the car, and begs him not to come any closer. Do-jin changes his knife's direction and swings it, splitting his head in two. Gil Tae-seok comments that Do-jin split their colleague's head with a thin sashimi knife, not a cleaver, which demonstrates his brutal strength. Gil Tae-seok, completely cornered, describes Do-jin as a monster. A car appears before them, speeding towards them. They collide with the car, and the force of the impact throws Do-jin far away. Do-jin lies motionless on the ground. Gil Tae-seok manages to get out of the car unharmed, but he notices that the collision had no effect on Do-jin, who begins to rise calmly as if nothing happened. The mysterious man thinks to himself that it's strange to die but shows no surprise that Do-jin did not meet his end so easily. He then gets into a fighting stance and challenges Do-jin with a steady voice. Do-jin lunges at him quickly. Gil Tae-seok rapidly analyzes Do-jin's movements, noting they are wide and unrefined, which might give him a slim chance for a counterattack. Gil Tae-seok convinces himself that although his opponent is a monster, if he has completely lost his mind, then he has a chance to win. But he is defeated in the fight and falls to the ground in severe pain. Do-jin stands over him, raising his knife to deliver the final blow. However, Gil Tae-seok manages to block the attack at the last moment and deliver a counterstrike. He believes he has found an opportunity to attack, noticing that his opponent's left side is completely exposed. But Do-jin lunges at him with his knife and stabs him deeply, and Gil Tae-seok groans in pain. However, he realizes in shock that he was certain the knife had been in Do-jin's right hand from the start. He understands that he was lured in and that his opponent was aiming for this outcome all along, as Do-jin grabs him forcefully. Do-jin asks Gil Tae-seok coldly, "What did you do with Jua?" Gil Tae-seok replies, asking if he means the girl, and tells him he offered her as a sacrifice. Do-jin asks angrily what sacrifice means. Gil Tae-seok tells him not to play dumb, pointing out that Do-jin survived having his throat cut, and asserts that he is just like that bastard. He continues talking about the monster who asked them to provide sacrifices, revealing the existence of another evil entity controlling things. Meanwhile, in front of the Hex Bar, one of Choi's men on guard duty wonders if they should go in, thinking it's taking too long to catch Taeseong alone. His partner reassures him, telling him they just have to follow orders and guard the entrance, so there's no need to worry as long as more than 10 men have already gone in. As they talk, a mysterious man with long white hair and a black mask approaches them. One of the guards stops him, telling him the place is closed today and he should go elsewhere. The masked man calmly replies that he must enter because he has an appointment. The guard scoffs, asking if he's deaf, while his partner advises him to avoid trouble and let him go. The first guard sarcastically comments on the idea of having an appointment at this hour, but then suddenly screams in unbearable pain. His partner looks at him in horror and asks what's wrong, as the veins on the injured guard's neck bulge frighteningly. The guard continues to scream as a tree branch begins to grow out of his neck in a horrific manner. In moments, a full tree bursts from his body, killing him instantly. The remaining guard stands frozen in place from sheer terror, wondering about the nature of what he just saw. The white-haired man smiles while holding something resembling a seed in his hand, and calmly repeats that he told them he had an appointment to meet at sunrise. The bathroom was teeming with the corpses of those whose souls Taeseong had taken. Choi's men have been utterly defeated, and one of them trembles, holding a broken knife. Tai Xiong stands victorious over Choi, who is screaming in pain, and Tai Xiong coldly comments that they sent Choi to face him because he's left-handed, confirming that his plan had succeeded. But when his eyes fell on the attacker, he realized it wasn't Choi, and a feeling of regret washed over him. The assassin is thrown forcefully to the ground, screaming in pain. Tai Xiong asks Choi with a sarcastic tone how long he will keep sending his followers, assuring him that he knows things won't end this way. He challenges him not to be a coward and to face him himself, but at that moment, one of Choi's men arrives and tells him he has brought what he requested. Choi orders his man to execute the plan, and the man begins to pour a liquid from a container. Tai Xiong smells gasoline, realizing their plan to set the place on fire. Choi mocks him, advising him to stay hidden inside like a rat, and vows to roast him alive. As Choi prepares to light his lighter, the white-haired man appears behind him, humming a children's song about the sunrise. The man continues to walk, humming with a chilling calmness. Choi turns around in shock and disbelief, calling the man by the name Mr. Quay, and asking how he got here. Mr. Quay replies calmly, reminding Choi that they had an appointment to meet at sunrise. Choi panics, stammering a promise that he is about to finish and that he will meet his required quota as soon as he takes control of the port. But Mr. Quay offers him a bouquet of flowers, which only increases Choi's confusion and astonishment. He then coldly thanks him for all his hard work and tells him that he can retire now, a sinister hint at his end. Elsewhere, Do-jin asks in amazement, "Is Mr. Quay a yokai? Is he mocking me?" Gil Tai-seok asks Do-jin, "Do you really not know the truth about yourself?" Gil Tai-seok reveals to him that he is a being that feeds on the flesh and souls of humans, and that he is the natural enemy of mankind. Describing him as a yokai, he screams in pain and shock, and tree branches burst horrifically from his body as he screams in agony. The dying Gil Tai-seok reveals that bastard, Mr. Quay, came to them a few years ago and offered them a deal. The deal was that he would save their lives in exchange for the delivery of humans to him. He adds that Mr. Quay forced them to secretly feed their own men a cursed seed. He laments that his leader foolishly accepted the deal, even though it was obvious that this would be their end. Gil Tai-seok warns Do-jin that Mr. Quay will offer him a similar deal, and tells him that if he wants to find him, he must go to Gu Tai-seong. Back at the bar, Mr. Quay speaks to Choi's corpse, telling him not to feel bad, as thanks to him, he lived an extra 5 years, adding that he owes him his life for these past 5 years. Then Mr. Quay turns with a smile and announces that after bidding farewell to his predecessor, it is time to discuss business. Mr. Quay asks with a cunning smile, "Are you my new partner, Tai-seong?" Tai-seong looks at him defiantly and asks him what he really is. Mr. Quay replies that he is called by many names in different countries, listing his titles like demon, evil spirit, yokai, and rakshasa, but clarifies that in this country, he is usually known as a yokai. He tells Tai-seong not to be nervous, as he has only come to offer him a deal. Mr. Quay explains his offer, proposing to introduce him to his partners in North Korea and China, so that Tai-seong can use the port to bring in illegal immigrants. Tai-seong comments that the offer seems more ordinary than he expected, as he thought he would be asked to sell his soul or something similar. Mr. Quay explains that yokai have their own circumstances that prevent them from eating humans randomly, which is why the help of human partners is precious to them. He adds that Tai-seong's gang can keep all the profits, and in return, all he has to do is select the healthy humans from among the immigrants, setting a quota for him to send 10 of them to him every week. Tai-seong asks him if his fate will be the same as Mr. Choi's if he refuses the offer or fails to meet the quota. Mr. Quay confirms this, but adds confidently that he is sure Tai-seong will live much longer than Choi, because he is more competent and intelligent. Tai-seong smiles and tells him that he is sorry, but there are 3 things he will never sell in his life as a gangster. First, people. Second, drugs. He pauses for a moment before mentioning the third thing, and before he can finish his sentence, Mr. Quay cuts off his hand and tells him he takes back his words about him being smart. But he adds that this is why he admires him more, as it has been a long time since he met a human who didn't fear him. As Tai-seong chokes, Mr. Quay tells him he will give him another special chance. He offers him a strange, tentacled seed and orders him to swallow it. He promises that if he does, he will not only forgive his insolence, but will also restore his severed right arm. But Tai-seong begins to laugh intermittently as he chokes. Mr. Quay asks him why he's laughing. Tai-seong replies that he finds it funny because Mr. Choi ended up being useful for something after all, as he pulls out a lighter. Tai-seong flicks the lighter near Mr. Quay's hands that are choking him, igniting the spilled gasoline. As the flames erupt around them, Tai-seong finishes his previous sentence, declaring that the third thing he will never sell, even if he dies, is himself, because he refuses to live like a coward. He shouts that he will never do it, even if death is the price, and concludes with a final cry, "I will never live like a coward." Amidst the burning flames, Mr. Quay stands laughing hysterically, unaffected by the fire consuming everything around him. He comments sarcastically on the situation, considering the act of starting the fire to be an extremely amusing move from Tai-seong. He then calls him a fool, assuring him that a small flame like this could never kill him. He grabs the burning Tai-seong and mocks him for repeating the phrase that he won't live like a coward. He tells him that hearing those words makes him want even more to see the miserable expression on his face as he breaks down and begs. He then whispers a horrific fact to him. Those who are burned to death don't die from the fire directly, but from slow suffocation from the smoke. Part of Mr. Quay transforms into a monstrous form with a huge fanged mouth, explaining that as long as Tai-seong can still breathe, he will suffer the pain of burning for a very long time before he dies. He adds that the pain will come in continuous waves, making it difficult to lose consciousness, and that he will feel every part of his body being slowly roasted. He expresses his eagerness to see Taeseong's humiliated face as he begs for death. But suddenly, one of Taeseong's surviving men points the nozzle of a fire extinguisher at Mr. Kwei, surprising him. The survivor, who turns out to be Do-jin, having arrived at the scene, asks Mr. Kwei with an icy tone, "Are you that monster?" Do-jin stands in a direct confrontation with Mr. Kwei amidst the raging inferno, then discharges the contents of the fire extinguisher in his face, catching him by surprise and hitting him in the face with the extinguisher itself. Do-jin strikes him directly. Do-jin uses this opportunity to grab Mr. Kwei and sharply ask him where the woman he took as an offering is. However, Mr. Kwei couldn't tolerate the insult, so he severed Do-jin's right hand. Mr. Kwei asks him sarcastically why he cares, assuring him that he's going to die anyway. Suddenly, Do-jin's eyes glow with a celestial blue aura, and he bites Mr. Kwei with immense force. Mr. Kwei is shocked by this power, wondering if Do-jin had been one of his allies all along, but he dismisses the idea, noting that Do-jin doesn't seem like one, and accuses him of trying to steal his offering, that is, Taeseong. He scoffs at him, saying this is why monsters these days are useless. They are so weak they can't even discern their opponent's power. He orders him to stop living in this disgrace and simply die. Mr. Kwei suddenly feels a bead he is carrying begin to glow and react. He realizes this reaction means a link to hell is nearby. He finds it amazing, noting that something like this hasn't happened to him once in 300 years. He looks at Do-jin with a new understanding, acknowledging that he has stronger support than he thought. Mr. Kwei stands over Taeseong's unconscious body and tells Do-jin he will let him live for today. But he wonders to himself why the people of hell would make a deal with a weak and insignificant creature like Do-jin. He then walks towards the tree that grew from the guard's body, which bears a fruit resembling a mask, expressing his long-held desire to meet someone from hell directly. He grabs the fruit, thinking that he is certain he can do anything better than that person, hinting at his desire to take Do-jin's place. Mr. Kwei holds the mask-like fruit and speaks as if someone is watching him, inviting them to contact him anytime. Elsewhere, a car arrives at an isolated facility, and a member of the Ho-young crew wonders if this is the intended place, and if these are the clients they deal with. His colleague comments that it's strange, wondering why a hideout of this size would be built in a place like this. His colleague explains that if they were trafficking humans as slaves, they would have built the base near the coast for easier shipping, and if they were trading organs, they wouldn't have built something this large and conspicuous. He then asks his colleague curiously what the clients do with the people they deliver, but the other tells him not to worry about it. He adds that they just have to do as they're told, then orders everyone to unload the cargo. In the transport truck, Jua sits frightened in a corner, and one of the gangsters orders her to move and get out, threatening to drag her by force. He yells in her face, asking if she is deaf, and orders her to get out immediately. His colleague, who had been asking questions, notices that Jua is completely unconscious, showing signs of severe shock. He looks at her with concern, wondering what they did to her. His memories flash back to the past, where it is revealed that he is actually an undercover cop, and he recalls a conversation with his boss who congratulates him on graduating second in his class. His boss, Jang Seong-cheol, explains to him that the top of the class draws too much attention, and the one who ranks second is the perfect person for such a mission. He then offers him the chance to become a hero for his country. The young cop repeats the word hero, contemplating the offer. The chief explains to him that missing persons cases have been piling up for years, and that the Ho-young crew has connections to foreign criminal organizations. He assigns him the mission of investigating them by infiltrating their ranks. Returning to the present, the undercover cop thinks that after a year of infiltration, the gang war has opened up an opportunity for him to participate in the delivery operations. Thanks to that, he was finally able to witness the human trafficking operation with his own eyes. He even reached the headquarters of their higher-up partners. He then starts shouting, trying to cause a commotion, and yells at one of the guards to come out or he'll kill him. He thinks to himself that he notified his boss on the way here, and that backup will arrive at any moment to end this nightmare. Inside, one of the guards wonders in Chinese what is happening outside. Suddenly, the men from the Ho-young crew are attacked by their clients. One of them protests, asking why they are being attacked after they did everything that was asked of them. One of the monstrous-looking attackers replies that these are the boss's orders, and that the deal with the Ho-young crew is over. He announces that they are no longer partners, but have become products. The leader of the Ho-young team screams in anger and disbelief, repeating the word product. The attacker tells him that fighting is futile, and he should accept his fate. But the team leader refuses to give up and attacks him with a knife. However, he is immediately defeated with a single blow. The attacker stands over him, declaring that his courage is no longer of any value as a product, and orders his men to throw him away or give him as a gift to one of the clients. He then turns to the rest of the captured crew members and orders them all to be turned into products. In the human trafficking facility, Jua is shown bound and gagged, while one of the kidnappers announces that the shipment will happen today. In a disgusting scene, the captives are forced to vomit by having a viscous liquid inserted into their mouths. One of the captives, the undercover cop, explains that they were forced to ingest something to induce vomiting. After that, they washed the captives' bodies with water hoses. One of the kidnappers talks to his partner, asking him about the number of products allocated for the partner, and the other replies that it is 2 premium-grade pieces. The first one orders the 2 pieces to be packaged as premium, and the rest as regular. Everyone then exited through the door. He thinks to himself that forcing them to empty their stomachs likely means they are being prepared for organ trafficking, and he calls them lunatics for doing this even to their own gang members. But he holds on to hope, assuring himself that backup will arrive soon. The captives are shown being led away, with collars placed around their necks. The undercover cop approaches Jua, apologizes for what happened earlier, and encourages her to hold on and not give up. He then thinks that perhaps he was actually saying those words to himself. When they enter another room, he is horrified to see a wall full of small cages, and in each one is a corpse, and he tries to deny his feeling of fear. Do-jin wakes up in a bed, wondering where he is. He remembers that he was fighting that bastard, Mr. Quay. A woman asks him, "Did you sleep well?" Do-jin asks her who she is. She tells him she is the owner of the tarot bar that burned down, and adds that she was the one who saved his life from those flames. She concludes her introduction by stating she is an exorcist who deals with yokai like him, calls him Mr. Yang Do-jin, and declares that she is an exorcist. Do-jin repeats the word in confusion and says that that bastard who came to kill him said the same thing. He then yells at her angrily, asking what nonsense everyone is talking about, and denies being a yokai. She orders him to be quiet, telling him she only kept him alive because she thought he might be useful, threatening that she can exorcise his spirit at any time. She adds that no human possesses a body like his. Do-jin looks at his chest and sees a wound that is healed in a supernatural way, which astonishes him. She explains to him that a yokai, even if its limbs are cut off and its heart is pierced, can regenerate as long as its head is intact, just like insects. After a moment of silence, Do-jin asks her one question. What the hell is a yokai? She begins to explain, telling him they are beings that steal human bodies. The exorcist continues her explanation to Do-jin, clarifying that yokai hide among them in human form. Meanwhile, in the human trafficking facility, the undercover cop, Gyung-min, appears shocked as he absorbs this horrific truth. Gyung-min watches one of the kidnappers approach the captives. The kidnapper breaks some of their necks, which terrifies Gyung-min immensely. He screams at them, calling them insane bastards for killing people in cold blood. Mr. Quay calmly replies, explaining that they are not dead yet, and that he only damaged their cervical vertebrae to put them in a state of total paralysis. He adds that in this state they can see, hear, and feel fear, but they cannot move. Mr. Quay smiles sinisterly, announcing that this is their company's specialty, fresh humans steeped in ripe fear, a product intended for clients who find it difficult to hunt for themselves. Gyung-min screams again, asking what nonsense he is talking about, and tells him that the police will surround the place at any moment. He vows that they will spend the rest of their lives in prison, but Mr. Quay ignores him. Suddenly, the police chief, Jang Seong-cheol, appears, commenting on the delicious aroma emanating from his fear. This leaves Gyung-min stunned and confused. Chief Jang praises Gyung-min's efforts in monitoring the Ho-hyung gang. Then Chief Jang asks Mr. Quay if Gyung-min is one of the special dishes he prepared, and Mr. Quay confirms with a smile, offering to prepare him for him. Chief Jang refuses and says he prefers to eat him here. He adds that he is very hungry, then moves towards the paralyzed captives. Gyung-min asks his chief in disbelief what he is doing. Chief Jang replies that he has a meeting in 2 hours and doesn't have time to change his clothes. He orders him to stay still, and a deformed, stitched smile appears on his mouth, revealing his inhuman nature. He then grabs Gyung-min and admires the dish. The chief's mouth transforms into a predatory, monstrous flower, and he senses Gyung-min's fear, commenting on its fragrant aroma. Back in the present, Do-jin asks the exorcist if yokai merge with and eat humans. She confirms this, explaining that some crimes in the human world, such as murder, kidnapping, and robbery, are actually the work of spirits preying on people. She continues her explanation of the nature of yokai's work. She confesses to him that at first they didn't suspect him, but rather thought his boss, Gu Tai-seong, was the spirit. However, they later found out he was just an ordinary villain. She looks at him seriously, as he lies between life and death, and describes Tai-seong as just ordinary human scum. Do-jin seems silent and affected by Tai-seong's miserable state. Do-jin then remembers when Tai-seong asked him in the past, "How long do you plan to keep this up?" He is surprised by his question, reminding him that they made a promise in the past to see this through together to the end. Tai-seong mentions that 5 years have passed since their promise, but he tells Do-jin that he doesn't have to continue with him until the end. Do-jin asks in confusion about the reason for this sudden change in his stance. Before Tai-seong can answer, Jua, Do-jin's beloved, appears. Tai-seong welcomes her and apologizes for keeping Do-jin out late. He then clarifies to Do-jin that he is not the one he should be keeping his promise with. He tells him that unlike in the past, he now has a chance to live his life as Hong Do-jin, and not as a demon, hinting that he should choose a normal life with Jua. Back in the present, Do-jin eagerly asks the exorcist how he can meet that white-haired spirit, Mr. Quay. She asks him what he will do when he meets him, and Do-jin replies that the monster took the most precious person in the world from him. He declares with determination that he will kill him and save Jua. The exorcist comments that if he is prepared to fight Quay, he might be useful, but she reminds him that he cannot defeat him in his current state. Do-jin tells her about his dream, and how the flames, Rakshasa, spoke to him. He explains that the flame told him that anything that possesses a soul, whatever it may be, if he offers it as a sacrifice, it will grant him power in return. The scene then shifts to a noisy protest, where demonstrators are shouting that the 15-year prison sentence is a travesty, and they demand that the demon Cho Gun-sik, who assaulted 11 minors, not be released. The protesters continue their chants, demanding he be sent back to prison. A news report mentions that Cho Gun-sik was released from prison a week ago. The report adds that his residence is in a state of chaos with protesters and internet activists. One protester shouts, challenging Cho Gun-sik to come out and face him. A live streamer announces that he will break into the place as soon as his viewer count reaches 1,000. Another is eating 20 cups of ramen as a way to pray for his death. The chaos and chants demanding his imprisonment or death continue. Inside, Cho Gun-sik angrily wonders about all the annoying shouting. He mutters to himself that he served his sentence and got out, and now he is quietly wearing his tracking anklet. He then thinks angrily that maybe he should go out and kill them all. Suddenly, he senses someone else in the room. He turns around, shocked, and asks the intruder who he is and how he managed to get in. The exorcist appears and asks him to confirm. Did the entity in his dream promise to give him power in exchange for an offering? Do Jin, who had been listening the whole time, replies, yes. The exorcist lights a cigarette and says, all right, then, let's make a deal. The exorcist proposes the deal to Do Jin, explaining that she will give him a list of villains suspected of being yokai, and his mission is to go and kill them. She explains the mutual benefit of this agreement. If the target is a yokai, it's good for her because she can exercise its spirit, and good for him because he gets an offering to increase his power. She adds that if the target is just a human villain, getting rid of him is good for the world anyway. Do Jin agrees to the deal but asks a question. He asks how many of these suspected yokai there are, and if their number is sufficient for him to gain the power needed to kill Kuei. The exorcist reassures him not to worry, confirming that when it comes to villains, their number is more than enough. In the present, Do Jin then surprises Cho Gun-sik with a question about his identity. He clarifies his question, asking if he is human, or a yokai like him. In the yokai facility, the monstrous police chief begins to feed on the undercover cop, Gyeong-min. Gyeong-min appears to be in a state of absolute terror as he faces his fate, screaming in agony as the monster devours him. Mr. Kuei comments that the police chief must have been very hungry, then asks where the other special dish is. His subordinate points to Jua. The police chief comments on Jua, saying she looks tastier than the last one, but he notices she shows no reaction and wonders if she has lost her mind, expressing regret that he cannot feed on the soul in this state. Nevertheless, he decides it's fine, because the quality of her flesh seems to be top-notch. At that moment, Jua thinks to herself that she is relieved it didn't take long. She opens her eyes with determination, thinking that now she can go to Do Jin, revealing that she had been feigning unconsciousness. Mr. Kuei suddenly intervenes and stops the police chief, apologizing that he will bring him another special dish and admitting he was mistaken about Jua. He announces that this human is not a product. The police chief becomes enraged and transforms into a monstrous form, asking how Kuei dares to interrupt a meal that has already begun, and screaming that he fancies this human. He vows to eat her now, but Kuei tells him to be patient. He promises to prepare another special dish for him by tomorrow, but the police chief erupts in anger, yelling that he is hungry now, not tomorrow, and reminds Kuei that he is the one who allows him to run his business so easily. He screams at him not to ignore him. He insults Mr. Kuei, calling him a dullard scarecrow yokai who can't even feed on souls. Then Kuei places his hand over the police chief's mouth and tells him to calm down. The police chief apologizes fearfully, saying he lost control of himself. Mr. Kuei orders one of his subordinates, Gyu Rang, to prepare another special dish for the chief by tomorrow. Gyu Rang confirms that he understands. Mr. Kuei announces that he will remove Jua from the product list. He smiles slyly, justifying his decision by saying her lover seems to be desperately looking for her, hinting that he plans to use her as leverage in the future. Elsewhere, signs of Rakshasa's power are shown healing Do Jin's hand. The exorcist explains to him that a yokai's body is very suitable for fighting, and reminds him that as long as the head is intact, the body can fully regenerate. Do Jin concludes that from now on, all he has to do is smash their heads, and she praises his quick understanding. But she adds that there is something else he must remember when fighting yokai, which is that there are two ways yokai eat humans. The first method is shikyok, which literally means chewing and eating human flesh. The second method is shikhan, which involves absorbing the soul using human fear as fuel. She confirms to him that a yokai can absorb the soul of a human who fears it. She warns him sternly that he still possesses a human soul, so he must never feel fear of them, no matter what happens. Then Do Jin's previous question is posed again. Are you human or yokai? Zranya, while his hand is shown gripping a heavy hammer in the darkness. Do Jin confronts Cho Gun-sik, who appears to be his first target. The man screams in terror, asking Do Jin who he is and why he is attacking him. But Do Jin doesn't waste time talking, and swings the hammer at his head, crushing it. The target falls to the ground, while Do Jin stands over him, splattered with blood. Do Jin calls the exorcist, and tells her he has eliminated the target, and that he was just a human. She asks if he is sure he's dead, and he replies that he is, and that his head was completely smashed. She asks with a skeptical tone, really? But how can you be so sure? She continues her shocking question. How are you sure that what you saw was his real head? Zrania. But he is suddenly hit on the head. Disbelief is on Do Jin's face as he sees the corpse move. Suddenly, the corpse that was on the floor rises and lunges at him. The yokai grabs Do Jin with force, and pins him to the ground as he groans in pain. Do Jin realizes that the creature attacking him does not resemble the human he just killed. The yokai, which has taken on a monstrous form, looks at him and asks if he is an exorcist. It then begins to complain, saying it's always like this. It laments that exorcists can't get close to high-level yokai who eat thousands of humans, but they always go after lower-class yokai like him who only feed on souls. It scoffs at Dojin, asking if he thinks he can defeat it. It calls him a rookie who can't even find its real head. The yokai, whose true form is revealed to be a spider, laughs and asks Dojin if he's frozen with fear after seeing its true form. The yokai looks down at Dojin, whom it has pinned to the ground, and calmly tells him that this is good, because it was tired of holding back anyway. The yokai vows to tear him to pieces and make an example of him, but Dojin suddenly stabs it. The yokai screams in its face as it holds him down tightly, but Dojin suddenly appears holding a heavy hammer and tells the yokai it talks too much, then asks sarcastically, "Is this your real head?" He then swings the hammer with all his might at the yokai's head. The yokai screams in agony, unable to believe a mere human would dare to do that to it. Dojin tells him he could tell from his movements. Despite its scary appearance and brute force, it's clear it has never been in a real fight before. The yokai's head is completely crushed under the weight of the hammer, but in its final moments, the yokai manages to grab Dojin. It mocks him, asking what he's going to do now without his hammer, and vows to break his back. Dojin is shown struggling against the yokai's tight grip. Then Dojin headbutts it forcefully in the head. He then speaks coldly, saying he was curious to know what kind of amazing creatures yokai were, but he adds sarcastically that all they know how to do is scare people and blackmail them, and that they are no different from neighborhood thugs. The dying yokai looks at him in confusion and asks what he really is, while Dojin's eyes glow with a frightening white light. The exorcist's words echo in Dojin's mind, warning him that a yokai can absorb the soul of a human who fears it, and that he must never fear them. Dojin begins to laugh. The exorcist asks him why he's laughing. Dojin continues to laugh and thinks to himself, scoffing at the idea of fear, wondering if anyone thinks he still possesses a single shred of that feeling. He adds that it's impossible for him to feel fear, especially towards those who took everything from him. He stands over the mangled corpse of the yokai, and declares that from now on, it is not he who should feel fear, but them. The memory of his clan's slaughter flashes in his mind, the source of his fearless strength.